Coming up on Network Africa, US sanctions Sudanese firms for fueling war. Deadly clashes ensue in the wake of Senegal opposition leader Ousmane Sonko's sentencing. Plus, Swiss court upholds sentence of Liberian warlord. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos. We begin with the United States government sanctioning 4 Sudanese companies and several individuals for fueling the war between rival military forces. This is an attempt to cut off key financial flows to the army and the rapid support forces, who it is believed get a lot of their funding from the country's gold mines. On Wednesday, the number of casualties from strikes during fighting between the rival military forces at a market in southern Khartoum rose to 18. Like many other residents of Sudan's capital, Salah Abdallah had to leave much behind when he fled from the war erupting around him. The 65-year-old painter and retired art professor made it to Egypt with his wife and 2 daughters, leaving behind 3 sons who lacked the travel documents needed to enter the country. Before leaving, he took some of his artwork off their frames, rolling them up and carrying them to Cairo. Bigger pieces were left behind. The Sudanese art scene, which had gained momentum from the popular uprising against autocrat Omar al-Bashir, now finds itself scattered by war 4 years later. Under Bashir's Islamist rule, cultural and social activities were strictly controlled. When he was toppled in 2019, there was a cultural outburst that included street murals and modern music. Reem Al-Jali, a Sudanese painter who had her studio in Khartoum 2 area, where a lot of heavy fighting has been taking place, had to leave all her works behind, except for a small sketch she always carried in her bag. For these ones, their dreams are no longer works of art. They long for the war to end and people to be at peace.
A lot of artists depend mainly on art as a source of income or a main source of income. If it's not their paintings directly, it's products associated to the creation of art, like framing and logistical work or research or something, or critique work as a source of income. And unfortunately, due to what's going on in the country today, none of these artists have an income. And this is inclusive of teachers and professors of the Faculty of Arts. We've always been repressed. Especially during al-Bashir time, the 30 years from 1990s until 2019 have been an extreme repressive time. Al-Bashir deleted archives, he burned paintings, he confiscated a lot of artistic and literature productions. So so the artists were forced to be in these bubbles, and sort of like they had their own silent cries. The art scene was really going somewhere. There was so much interest, so many things happening, many exhibitions. Last February, there were 3 openings of exhibitions happening on the same evening, and that has never happened in the history of art scene in Sudan. This war, it's sad to see it even attempting to stop this momentum. It really saddens me to know that this momentum that we have gained and worked so hard on will be stopped somehow. So we hope it doesn't. And our initiative is one of the initiatives to do that. We try to tell people, like, hey, we can still go on. We don't necessarily have to let this war win over us as creative people.
Away from Sudan to Senegal, another hotspot. Riots have broken out in the capital, Dakar, after a court sentenced leading opposition politician Ousmane Sonko to 2 years in jail for corrupting youth, undermining his chances of running for president next year. At a Central University campus, protesters set a fire to a car, threw rocks at riot police, who responded by firing tear gas. Sonko, 48, was accused of raping a woman who worked in a massage parlor in 2021 when she was 20 and making death threats against her. The criminal court cleared Sonko of rape but found him guilty of a separate criminal offence described in the penal code as immoral behaviour towards individuals younger than 21. Sonko's Pastef party says the verdict is part of a political plot and asks citizens to take to the streets. And a court in Eswatini has found 2 lawmakers guilty of murder and terrorism for their role in a wave of protests that hit the country in 2021. Duduzi Mbesidi, Mabuza and Mathendeni face up to 20 years in jail. In a country that is Africa's last absolute monarchy, both men were detained for taking part in pro-democracy protests. The demonstrations were violently crushed by security forces, leaving dozens of people dead. And they pleaded not guilty to inciting unrest. Amnesty International says the convictions are evidence of the country's continuing crackdown on dissent. Eswatini has been ruled by King Mswati III since 1986, and political parties are banned from taking part in elections. Protesters, angered by economic decline, have become increasingly vocal in demanding political reform. An appeals court in Switzerland has upheld a 20-year jail sentence against a former Liberian warlord convicted of rape, murder and cannibalism. Aliou Kusaya was also found guilty of an additional charge of crimes against humanity, which had been added by prosecutors. The case was the first of its kind in Switzerland or anywhere else for atrocities committed during Liberia's multiple civil wars, which lasted from 1989 to 2003, in which thousands were murdered and mutilated. The former rebel commander was found guilty of war crimes in 2021. And we're in Zambia now, where the State House has dismissed accusations that women are being barred from carrying handbags to its functions. Well, this follows a complaint about gender-insensitive security measures witnessed at a recent event at the official residence of the president. An official from the non-governmental Gender Organizations Coordinating Council, Grace Tinkamba, is declaring that it amounts to discrimination against women and girls. But State House spokesperson Clayson Hamasaka has denied the allegation, saying no woman has been denied access to the building on the basis of carrying a handbag. However, those who decline to have their bags screened forfeit their right to enter, and that's according to Hamasaka. Like most countries in sub-Saharan Africa, Congo does not have universal health coverage. But the minimum of $40 required to give birth in a health facility is steep in a country where, according to the World Bank, over 60% of the population live on less than $2.15 per day. While Congolese businesswoman Grace Umek has made it her mission to visit maternity wards around Kinshasa and settle unpaid bills, preventing mothers from taking their newborns home.
It was not the first time she handed a wad of crisp green notes to doctors at Bethesda Clinic in the capital's impoverished Ngaba neighborhood, where teenage pregnancies are common. Doctors would not discharge 16-year-old Anel until all fees were settled. 3 weeks after the birth, she was still in bed, gazing at the ceiling as perfectly healthy twin girls in matching red beanies dozed by her side. Grace Umek's $130 covered Anel's remaining debt. Her mother had been working as a cleaner in the clinic to pay for her daughter's $150 cesarean section. 2 other young women in the room were in the same situation. Women are effectively held hostage as a result, staying weeks more than necessary in already overstretched hospitals, while relatives scramble for solutions. Bethesda's head doctor, Emmanuel Mbopa, whose sister died in labor a few years ago because she was not able to afford hospital care, said keeping patients in was regrettable but necessary. Umek, who owns shares in several security companies, was first made aware of the issue during an encounter with a United Nations official. Having had difficult pregnancies and expensive hospital-assisted births, the mother of 4 felt concerned and set up a foundation in 2017 to help. She sometimes spends up to $3,500 on maternity ward bills in just 1 month. President Felix Tshisekedi's government is currently ratifying a new law to make health services free for vulnerable population groups. But this may take some time.
Still to come on Network Africa. Brics foreign ministers meet in Cape Town ahead of August parley, confirm support for multilateralism. We have details in a moment. Welcome back. With the successful kickoff of a 3-day program, organizers of GTEx Africa say the event has become the biggest tech show on the continent, welcoming 900 exhibitors and startups, 250 leading investors, another 250 conference speakers, 30 ministerial delegations, while attracting tens of thousands of attendees from 120 countries. With more than 100 participating government entities from 80 countries, GTEx Africa 2023 poses as a catalyst of multiple investment pledges and public-private partnership initiatives to accelerate Africa's digital transformation. Well, Channels Television is a media partner of the event, and our correspondent Mayo Adeguke brings us this report.
After over 4 decades organizing what has now become the world's largest tech and startup show, GTEx Global launches its Africa event, GTEx Africa, in Marrakesh, Morocco.
Thank you, Lee. Inaugurated by the Moroccan head of government, Aziz Akanouch, and other top dignitaries at the opening ceremony, the agenda is simple: become the leading platform for the world to engage with the tech ecosystem and talents in Africa on African soil.
To have the privilege to attend the first ever GTEx on the African soil is a testament to our collective commitment to driving the digital innovation and transformations across our beloved continent.
A fitting charge for the thousands of exhibitors, investors, and startups in attendance, including the over 60 startups from Nigeria.
So the whole idea is that some of them are being supported by Dubai World Trade Center and also to Lagos State Government and NIDA as well. But the belief is that we are in a world whereby it's no longer looking for a job. So it's also helped to create opportunities, techpreneur opportunities for our startups. Also, it helps to increase the foreign direct investment to the country. Because some of them here, they're going to be meeting investors. We will bring in the much needed cash to support our local economy.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu takes a tour of the various startups, including Dawn and Imperial EdTech, both educational startups from Lagos.
Actually, he was intrigued by what we were building in Dawn, and I feel like Lagos State, in fact, is going to be a huge beneficiary of Dawn, because personally, I went to a public school, and I went back to the public school to do some research, and I realized that a lot of people are actually dyslexia. So first thing I've been doing is to onboard those students.
Right now in Lagos State, we supplied about 3,000 devices in Lagos State, and we're building a modular line in Lagos State as well for as a repair center for manufacturing of devices and also training of hardware specialists.
In my own city state, Lagos, we're experiencing the genesis of digital revolution firsthand. I've been a governor for 4 years, and I can say that year on year, we've seen that growth trajectory are coming in. We're seeing higher numbers of investment coming into our city, into the tech startups, and Lagos is home to most of the innovative, successful startups that we have. I'm sure you know that some of the unicorns that we have in Africa are in Lagos.
In an interview with Channels TV, he speaks of his vision for Lagos to host GTEx Africa in the near future.
From my research, Morocco has been on this for the past 3 to 4 years. So you could say that they've been ahead of us, on this conversation, and rightly so, they have it. But we're also pitching to make sure that maybe the next year or two, we can bring GTEx to Lagos. well, to Nigeria, but to Lagos preferably, and that would be one of my desire, to come up with a massive international conference like this, to be in our city.
With an exciting start to GITEX Africa on day one, many look forward to continuing the conversations and the connections for the next 2 days. From Marrakesh, Morocco, Maya Wadegoke for Channels Television.
And at a conference of foreign ministers in Cape Town, the Brics members reaffirmed their commitment to multilateralism. The event, which is being hosted by South Africa's Minister of International Relations, Naledi Pandor, serves as preparation for the August summit, which will take place in Johannesburg amid the political conundrum of Russian President Vladimir Putin's possible attendance. Now, the foreign affairs ministers of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa are also considering applications from several Asian, Middle Eastern and African countries to join the bloc of developing nations. Our South Africa correspondent Innocent Samosa has more.
This year, South Africa assumes the chair of Brics and will host regional and international leaders during the 15th summit of the grouping in August.
South Africa is the current chair of Brics, and we have agreed the focus on Brics and Africa as the key thematic area, focused on accelerating partnerships between Africa and the Brics countries.
Brics ministers also spoke about the expansion of the bloc.
Brics is a different structure. It's a new organization based on the principles of equality, mutual respect, consensus, non-interference, and strict adherence to the United Nations Charter.
There are many aspects of it. One part of it is actually to consolidate how the existing Brics members are working with each other. The second part of it is how the Brics engages non-Brics countries. And the third part of it is how we look at potential expansion.
31.5% of the world GDP is produced by the 5 countries of Brics, countries which also have 40% of the world population. So it's a very important asset. And we are working. This is maybe why of this big success that it's attracted.
This does discuss the current geopolitical environment and its impact on emerging markets.
First, be independent. Emerging markets and developing countries should manage their own affairs, and these affairs are up to ourselves. No one else has the right to lecture us, take away our right to follow a path that suits our own national conditions.
Another long-standing issue that Minister Naledi Pandor emphasized relate to the ICC warrant of arrest for Russian President Vladimir Putin.
The South African government is currently looking at what the various legal options are with respect to this matter. And I have indicated that it is something I believe the President would be the best person to speak about once they have reached a conclusion.
While Brics ministers are in closed doors deliberating on different issues outside, Ukrainians are protesting, registering their dissatisfaction. They say that they do not want to see President Putin in South Africa.
Why International Criminal Court provided this warrant of arrest specifically for that? So what Russia is doing, they are forcefully separating children from their parents. They are providing Russian citizenship and changing personal data of those children. So this is absolutely illegal, and we hope that South Africa will stand with Ukraine on children's rights.
South Africa still advocates for a peaceful settlement in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Naledi Pandor, says that they are totally opposed to the unilateral sanctions as they tend to have far-reaching implications. From Cape Town, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Well, the Brics Foreign Ministers meeting has come to an end in Cape Town, South Africa, and they say a focal point of the gathering is to strengthen the Brics New Development Bank, NDB, in order to effectively address the socio-economic challenges confronting the group of 5 emerging nations. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Russia has been spearheading the push for the creation of a joint currency, and Brazil has also thrown its support behind the idea. China, too, is in favor of challenging what its Ministry of Foreign Affairs calls US dollar hegemony.
We are hopeful that in the short term, a 9th member will complete the ratification processes and join the bank.
And finally on the program, China's ambassador to South Africa, Chen Jiaodong, says children are the future and as such should be nurtured and protected. As part of celebrating the International Children's Day, the Chinese embassy in South Africa donated food parcels to the Bramley Children's Home, a residential care facility for traumatized, abused and neglected children. The International Children's Day is widely celebrated on the 1st of June annually, with its origin dating back to the World Conference for the Well-being of Children in Geneva in 1925. Well, that's our program at this time. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker.